less than a minute from, noticing that someone said fire, and going, not even a minute after that, the flames had already reached the front door.
How many do you think got out from upstairs?
I have no idea.
But there were a lot of people who were able to get out, or did it seem like it happened so fast? Not many people got out.
Like, I'm giving you a play-by-play in seconds, I mean, it was a raging inferno in less than 15 seconds. Like, you need to understand that. I mean, we ran from it. It wasn't like it was growing. It was rolling. It had a trajectory towards the door and chased people to the door. It was terrifying. It was the most hellish thing I've ever seen, experienced. And just knowing that people were still in there and standing outside for 3 or 4 hours watching the fire fight that, and everyone's walking around and looking and trying to find people and trying to call people, and knowing that there's nothing that you can do is the worst feeling.
There were many twists and turns, and again, in zero visibility and high heat, you were dragging the hose behind us, pushing hose in front of us, crews working together in tandem and coordinated to advance the hose line as best we could. A lot of debris, I don't know if debris is the right word, furniture, just obstacles that we're coming into contact with, and a lot of twists and turns. I would say we didn't go any more than 5 feet in a straight line once we got in the front door.
I heard screaming. I heard people yelling, "Get out, there's a fire, there's a fire." So, and then I began to notice that there was a dark cloud of smoke, and then like I said, I look to my right and I see one of the studios completely up in flames to the ceiling. There are fire extinguishers throughout the warehouse. I had one in my space. I went to go and grab it. 3 other roommates grabbed fire extinguishers, were aiming at this wall of flame. I see it crawling and getting closer. I drop my fire extinguisher and I head to the door. And 3 fire extinguishers would not have taken down that wall of fire. That would not have happened. So I thought about my life. I dropped the fire extinguisher and I headed towards the door. It was very surreal. I felt like my body was like floating out of the warehouse. It was a very outer body experience. Adrenaline definitely kicked in.
Like I said, we had this conversation. It was like almost surreal that we're talking to 2 guys that were just in that building, but at that time we didn't know that all those people were in the building, which was really a trip. You know what I mean? It was you're not thinking away. You've seen a fire, we've seen a lot of fires in my lifetime, but you're not thinking that there's a bunch of people in the building like that. He said the screams are what guided him to the door. Yeah. Somebody outside was screaming, and he followed the voice. It wasn't he could see where it was going. I knew from the news they were talking about 6 people in there, 9 people, update now. I says, they ain't getting them. There's a lot more people in there.
So a lot of us were at the incident command center, looking at each other, thinking, "Are you hearing what we're hearing? That there are, upwards to, we're seeing upwards to 50 or 100 people that were there at the party, and I think that's what kind of struck us. We kept looking at each other, firefighters and command staff personnel, and we're like, wow, this is, well, from what we're hearing, this is a lot of people here, and so people are trying to phone their loved ones, and they went to voicemail, and so that evening was just tragic. I mean, just people were coming on scene, wondering where their loved ones were. Others were saying, geez, I just seen that person that evening, and when the fire broke, we just ran out, and were frustrated that others weren't able to follow out. So yeah, it was a chaotic scene. It was a tragic scene. And, I mean, the sheriff's department, when one of the deputies lost a 17-year-old child in that fire. I mean, we see stuff in Oakland all the time, right? You don't see this. This is just sad. It's damn sad.
Hit very close to home for our agency. One of our deputies that we work with lost his son in this fire, and so we're still with the other victims.
Authorities in Oakland are continuing the painstaking process of searching the debris of this weekend's deadly warehouse fire in Oakland. At least 33 people were killed, but with less than half of the building searched, the death toll is expected to rise. The warehouse was known as the Ghost Ship. Many artists illegally lived there, and CNN reports that it didn't have any sprinklers and had been under investigation for code violations. The warehouse often hosted electronic dance parties like the one that was held Friday night, which is when the fire broke out, trapping many inside with the flames.
The fire was just getting too hot, and the smoke was just getting too bad, and I had to leave him there, and I wasn't able to get him out.
It just doesn't seem that that's a fire that's survivable. So, reality, I think, for all of us is
really heartbreaking stuff. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims and their families. Stay on people.com for updates on this story.
We're joined now by Carmen Brito and Nikki Kelber, who lived in that warehouse and survived the fire. Ladies, good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Nikki, let me start with you. You lived in that building for about 2 years. You were there when the fire started. How did you find out it was happening? How did you get out?
It was actually Carmen that I heard coming down the hallway that said something about smoke and fire. Another one of our residence artists was at the door, and he also said fire. I immediately grabbed my fire extinguisher that I had right in my kitchen area. I opened my gate. I looked down the hallway, and I saw 15-foot flames and what appeared to be a fireball coming towards me. I closed my gate, ran to my loft to grab my cat carrier. I was hit with a giant black wall of smoke that immediately rendered me unable to breathe or to see, and then the power went out. I made it back down to my inside space, was able to grab a headlamp, gather up my cat, wrap her in my jacket, and race out of the building.
And Carmen, you lived there about 11 months. Nikki referenced having a fire extinguisher. We do know that this building was not coded for people to live there. Were you aware of that situation?
I think the thing you have to understand about the Bay Area is that it is incredibly difficult to find housing. If your camera crew wants to go 3 blocks west of here, you can find plenty of people who couldn't find housing. At some point, when you need somewhere to sleep at night, it doesn't matter whether you have a piece of paper telling you if that's okay or not.
And Carmen, some of the other residents, are they among the missing?
Yeah, we lost one of our own in the fire, and we all knew right away. One of our other members tried to save him and wasn't able to, and we all knew right away. And you know, I think he's still officially listed as missing because they haven't recovered his body yet. But like, we all watched our home burn, and we knew that he was inside.
Carmen and Nikki, we are sorry for your loss. We're happy you're okay, and we thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Alright, so sometimes there's a tree, sometimes there isn't. I mean, maybe it's just the camera angle. There looks like a tree right there. But when they get closer, no tree. I mean, is this the tree that was in the picture and it's just the weird angle? It seems like there's a tree here, but this picture, yeah, there's something here. Well, this picture is not that far from the wall, because this is the fence that they opened up. This is the front of the building. Some of the stuff they brought out, I mean, it just looked like junk, you know. Oh, that tree looks pretty close there, so I guess the firemen moved it. It's very odd. Let's take a look at some photos. Of course, there's people checking it out. And I'm not sure where the perspective is. Are the people inside taking this? Kind of looks like the entrance. Okay, this is the supposed entrance here. There was a photo that was described as being inside the warehouse. And it was just pretty much cleaned out. It was supposedly the day after. But now I can't find it on the internet. It was David Buto's photo. But see how clean this is. This is all the debris is gone. The tree is gone. All the mannequins and piles of stuff are gone. It doesn't give you really a date. Well, it says December 12th. I guess that's the date then that they posted it, maybe. So, I don't understand why the firemen would remove a tree. Why they remove this part of the building. I guess it was part of their drill. Was someone left their cooler? So. And then these people, the supposed victims, they all have their little devil signs. I guess that's part of their identity. Well, I guess they all don't have their devil signs, but a lot of them do. These two worked at a funeral home. And then the funeral home that they worked at had to do their funeral. Alright, so I can't find the photo that I had shown in a video. I don't know if he pulled it or what happened, but when I look up David Buto Ghost Ship Warehouse, this photo comes up, and this one was in the same article at one time, Los Angeles Times. And then there's another photo, but the one inside the warehouse is no longer coming up in a search. May not mean anything, but it just seems like there may have been some odd thing. I mean, they don't make sense. Photos don't make sense anyway. It just seems like it was over a month. I mean, the cars that were out front Didn't make sense. You know, they towed away a car that looked like the old, was it a Chevy out front? Let's see if you can tell here. You can't tell from this picture. There was like an old 50s car out front in some of the pictures. And then they towed away a 50s car, but it was like a black 50s car. And this is not even anything to do with this picture, this scene. No word on what happened to this photo. This photo was in the LA Times, and they did say it was from the next day, December 3rd. It was from inside the warehouse. So I'm not sure where this photo is taken. Some have suggested it was the car place next door. That doesn't make any sense either, since there were cars in there and it was a much smaller space. This is from the New York Times. You can see that tree is there in this picture. And all this junks stuff. And they claim that they know what happened on in the inside. And they have a little map here and everything. To me, the interior didn't match what they were showing on the outside. But they go through and label it all. I guess other people didn't believe it either. What happened to all this stuff? I guess this all melted? I don't know. I mean, I think it was set up to be a drill. I think the city probably owned the property, or it's municipal property, or whoever owned it was in on the EMS drill that they did. Some kind of urban initiative, grant money. They have to justify having the drones and all the cranes and all the equipment and everything. Love the elephants, by the way. So, another day, another drill. Oh, here it is. I found it. It says the interior of the Ghost Ship warehouse is seen after the December 2 fire that killed 36 people in Oakland. It's from the San Francisco Chronicle, which is very strange, and looks like it was updated December 8th. And I'm just not sure what this is supposed to be. I don't think this is the warehouse. It doesn't look like the warehouse. It doesn't look like the place next door. You know, just, I'm not sure what they're, where they would have gotten that photo. I mean, and how he would have gotten in. So there's cars in here. And they didn't really have any back door. It's also strange. I mean, sometimes this seems like this side is shorter than this side. You know, that this is kind of at an angle. And sometimes it seems straight like a shoebox. Now this is the boss of the two who supposedly died in an embrace.
Both just really sincerely kind, compassionate individuals.
Dan Duggan owns and operates Duggan Sarah Mortuary in Daly City, where both Vega and Gregory work the night shift.
When I interview people, we always look for people with a warm heart, and they were just really, really good kids.
Ironically, Duggan is now helping the families plan for the couple's funerals. Staff members here who have dealt with death so much have been struggling to cope.
It was very hard. Saturday, when I first heard, it was the typical, no, it's not us, it has to be somebody else.
Friends say Vega loved cars, especially his Miata. The San Bruno native pursued the arts, from urban graffiti and painting to electronic music. Gregory was also raised in San Bruno. She pitched for the Millbrae Softball League, attended high school in South San Francisco, and studied child development at SF State. Philip Oberst, who supervised Vega and Gregory, 2-year-old Alex Vega, were soulmates. Their bodies found in an embrace amidst the ashes of the ghost ship warehouse fire in Oakland that killed 36 people.
It does look like the male was trying to protect the female from the fire and the smoke when they were overcome by the smoke. The male had his arm underneath the female as if they were hugging.
Friends and family say they take comfort in knowing that the two, together for 5 years, were not alone when they died.
They're both just really sincerely kind, compassionate individuals.
Dan
almost 24 hours exactly since this fire. This is a community here. There are houses and other warehouses here with families. There's flowers, there's candles, but there's also heavy machinery digging through the debris and hoping to recover all those bodies that might be inside. There are federal agents on the scene, and here are the official numbers at this point. 9 people killed, 25 missing. However, unofficially, officials have already told us that they expect these numbers to climb. The death toll certainly will rise. The building was not permitted to hold people, but yet it was a colony for artists who not only had their art there, but lived in this building as well, and it could take up to 48 hours to really remove all these bodies. A potentially chilling look now inside this warehouse. This is video that we have just obtained. This was about an hour before the fire began, so about 24 hours ago. This grainy clip posted to Instagram appears to show a very cluttered room inside of this warehouse. One of the witnesses there said he was at this party. He had to walk up a single wooden plank to get to that upper story. It was shot by a young man named Alex France Gasson. The caption read, "Oakland reminds me so much of Jersey City sometimes." So far, we have not heard from Alex, even though everyone is commenting on his Instagram if he's okay, but we have not heard from Alex. And that brings us to the family part of all this. There are so many families just waiting, not only here in the Bay Area, but across the world, waiting.
Explore the science of sleep.
Amid the tremendous grief and the devastating loss of life, there are at least some answers emerging from the fire at the ghost ship warehouse. They include the cause of death, smoke inhalation, and a possible source identified by the ATF, a refrigerator at the back of the building.
By the time I got the doors open, it was just, flames were starting to engulf my space.
Jose Avalos was one of the last people to get out alive as fire began to ravage the building he had lived in for 2 years.
I only saw one person. I saw her confusion. I saw she was lost, and I tried to guide her out as best as I possibly could. With my words, with my body, I told her to keep moving forward.
Some of those who did not get out alive huddled close inside the building and sent final text messages to their loved ones, according to Alameda County Sheriff Sergeant Ray Kelly.
People calling, knowing they're going to die, making that last reach out toward your family.
And while searchers believe they have found most of the victims, they can't be certain until this difficult and painstaking process is finished.
I have no way of ascertaining if there are no additional victims. We are going to completely search the property and recover anything we can.
These ladies brought a native Aztec healing ritual to the fire scene.
To bring some healing to not only the people that lost their lives, but to the people that are dealing with the aftermath.
I couldn't breathe, I couldn't see anything. I jumped down off of my loft to grab my cat and run to the door and run to safety. I looked out at my gate and there was a 15-foot fireball at the end of the hallway coming towards me. It was moving fast.
I was asleep in the back where the fire broke out. I woke up to my room filled with smoke. I look out and I see this orange glow. And in the time it took me to get on these shoes and this jacket, I look out and there is a wall of fire. It went from either you lived or you didn't in under 10 minutes.
And at that point the power went out and I jumped off of the loft, which is, 10 or 11 feet, something, I don't even know. grabbed a headlamp, used it to find my cat, grabbed her phone, grabbed my keys, I'm not sure why. And then just tried to get out of my gate and out the door, and people at that point were just trying to like push their way through. Max was standing at the front with his cell phone trying to call 911. People were trying to call 911. They were also trying to just light the path and just so people could see because the power was already out. And once I was outside, I realized the fire department still wasn't there yet. People were getting rerouted on all of their calls, so I went, running around the corner screaming fire, 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 which was bringing people out of their homes. And then finally someone came out of the fire department and I saw the door go up and the truck come out. And I feel like it was 30 seconds from when I looked down the hall to when, like, it was pretty much like engulfed. It was so fast. It was so fast.
Carmen, I mean, seeing that wall of flames.
I was just saying that. I come home from work and we had chatted for a bit, and I ended up falling asleep on top of my bed, fully dressed. I was planning on going out or going to the party, and I ended up just falling asleep around 10, and a little after 11, I woke up and there was filled with smoke, just like a fog of smoke, and I looked over and I could see an orange glow coming through the window, and I put on my coat and my shoes, and I came out of my space and I saw an entire wall on fire 20 feet from where I was standing, and I just knew there was nothing I could do. And I started walking. I was telling people to get out, and other people were running in and grabbing fire extinguishers and trying to put the flames out. And in the time it took me to walk from where I was to the front door, it was maybe 30 seconds of just a straight walk. And by the time I got out, I was dizzy and I couldn't see straight. And I was trying to call 911 and I couldn't see my phone in front of me, right? And a minute later, the power went out, and everyone who was inside was inside in the dark in the smoke.
And this is your home.
And this is our home, and one of the other residents was standing in the doorway with all of this smoke pouring out, with his phone out, trying to light the way for people who were still trapped inside.
And trying to pull people, people got there. And
he was trying to get people out of there. And at some point, I think whether you either got out or you didn't, and I think that timeline was under 10 minutes of when the fire started to when there was no chance of you getting out. That had to have been under 10 minutes. And I don't think people realize how quickly this went down. And I'm on the phone 911 getting rerouted from the CHP to the proper department. And in the meantime, people have started to run to try and get the fire engines out that much faster. I mean, I know they were here as fast as they could, but everything happened so quickly, like a 1 minute difference. Would that have saved something? I don't know. I mean, the area that caught on fire had smoke detectors and fire extinguishers.
It did.
It did. Yeah. We had multiple.
Were they working? I mean,
I mean, you can't really use it to put out a fire if it's on fire, But there were fire extinguishers everywhere.
At that point, and anybody who knows anything about fire safety also knows that if there is a fire that is bigger than you, your fire extinguisher is not. I mean, you can't. At that point, it was about getting out and trying to get people out.
So a lot of people are going to see this and wonder why live in a place that is like that can go up that quickly.
Have you tried finding a place to rent on Craigslist lately? Like it's horrible. I mean.
The housing crisis in Oakland, in the Bay Area, it's unprecedented. It's unprecedented. I mean, and you know what? It was a beautiful and amazing creative space that was our chosen home and our chosen family. And
we all looked out for each other. We all helped each other. Like, it wasn't just like, oh yeah, that's my roommate. It's like, this is my friends. Like, this is the person I eat dinner with. And it's hard. Like, people don't realize how hard it is to try and find somewhere else to live. It's like, if you make $100 a day, you're competing with tech workers who make $100 an hour. How do you compete
compete for housing. And they decide that they want to live in your neighborhood because it's the trendy neighborhood, it's the cool neighborhood, because it's a little bit edgy, because it's a little bit dangerous. And I've just watched people get pushed further and further out. I mean, I used to live in Berkeley until I couldn't afford it, and I've been pushed further and further south. I got forced out of San Francisco years ago. And, you know, no one wants to talk about these larger issues of the thousands of people who are living in tents. Like, go shine your camera over at that. There are thousands of people living on the streets. It's winter. It is cold. They've got nowhere to go. I mean, all of the people who live in RVs and park along the Dog Patch in parts of Berkeley and all of the industrial areas in the Bay Area, people are living out of vans because they can't find affordable housing. And
I think that's really that is one of the bigger stories that I think needs to be told, and that how we can actually take something that is so tragic, it is obviously, it's all over the news, it's all over everywhere, it is so tragic, but how can we actually take that tragedy and try and turn it around into something positive? We need to not just have the conversations about what the housing market is, but how are we going to fix it? How can we make it better? How can we actually have more affordable housing and housing that also supports and helps artists survive and thrive?
I mean, why don't we talk about the fact that I was on the phone with 911. I was one of the first people who could have called who knew about the fire. And it was faster to run to the fire department. Let's talk about how fucked up that is.
How many people were living in there? About 20, 25?
Yeah, I mean, some people were out of town, some people were at work.
And were there residents that are perhaps still in there? I mean,
we lost one of our own.
Yeah. And the landlord?
The person who owned the building, I have never seen. I don't even know who that is. They never came to join us. The city is saying that they came by on November 14th.
November 17th, there seems to be conflicting information.
Like, there was a porta potty out here on this corner over there. There was a porta potty that somebody abandoned on the sidewalk. We tried calling the company to pick it up. We tried calling the city. Nobody wanted to deal with it. We had to push it into the street, so then the city of Oakland was forced to deal with it.
Because
nobody wanted to. I mean, they're saying like they were coming to make sure we were up to code. Like, no, they weren't. I mean, they can say whatever they want because no one can prove it. You know, but like, if they're really going to sit here and say that they care about the residents of Oakland, I'm sorry, you don't care about the people who are sleeping in tents. You don't care about the people sleeping in their cars. You don't care about the people with small children who can't find anywhere to rent that's affordable. You know, we need to stop focusing on what individual people did or didn't do and look at the larger system that is forcing thousands of people to live in less than ideal housing situations.
Thank you both. So you basically just have the clothes on your back at this point.
The community here is amazing. I feel humbled by how many people have reached out to support me that I don't know. People who are offering shelter, offering clothes and money and everything. We're really grateful for how the community has come out to support us.
I saw down the hallway, totally engulfed in flames, floor to ceiling. It was like a fireball that was moving. I ditched the fire extinguisher. It wasn't going to do anything.
The space that caught on fire
had fire alarms.
But what no one thought about was that what if the fire alarm goes off in the middle of a party when the music is playing? DJs were on the second floor. This was on the ground floor. So the fire broke out right behind where most DJs would set up during events, where the music would have been coming from. People on the second floor wouldn't have seen any of the smoke yet. It would have been confined to the first floor. And because it's kind of a dark space to begin with at night, you know, I don't think people who were in the rest of the space were seeing smoke necessarily, like, because it was kind of dim. I think it didn't register right away. We had fire extinguishers. They wouldn't have been enough.
Nikki Kelber, who lived in that warehouse and survived the fire. Ladies, good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Nikki, let me start with you. You lived in that building for about 2 years. You were there when the fire started. How did you find out it was happening? How did you get out?
It was actually Carmen that I heard coming down the hallway that said something about smoke and fire. Another one of our resident artists was at the door, and he also said fire. I immediately grabbed my fire extinguisher that I had right in my kitchen area. I opened my gate. I looked down the hallway, and I saw 15-foot flames and what appeared to be a fireball coming towards me. I closed my gate, ran to my loft to grab my cat carrier. I was hit with a giant black wall of smoke that immediately rendered me unable to breathe or to see, and then the power went out. I made it back down to my inside space, was able to grab a headlamp, gather up my cat, wrap her in my jacket, and race out of the building.
And Carmen, you lived there about 11 months. Nikki referenced having a fire extinguisher. We do know that this building was not coded for people to live there. Were you aware of that situation?
I think the thing you have to understand about the Bay Area is that it is incredibly difficult to find housing. If your camera crew wants to go 3 blocks west of here, you can find plenty of people who couldn't find housing. At some point, when you need somewhere to sleep at night, it doesn't matter whether you have a piece of paper telling you if that's okay or not.
And Carmen, some of the other residents, are they among the missing?
Yeah. We lost one of our own in the fire, and we all knew right away. One of our other members tried to save him and was unable to, and we all knew right away. And you know, I think he's still officially listed as missing because they haven't recovered his body yet. But like, we all watched our home burn, and we knew that he was inside.
Carmen and Nikki, we are sorry for your loss. We're happy you're okay, and we thank you for joining us this morning.
Investigators are searching the debris field bucket by bucket. We are told the search could continue for another 24 hours. As you mentioned, the death toll now stands at 33, a number that will likely climb.
Overnight, the heartbreaking recovery. The number of those who perished inside a warehouse dance party expected to rise. Firefighters still searching through ash and debris 10 feet deep. Many bodies are still unidentified, and several people are listed as missing, like 22-year-old Alex Vega. His family, like others, may need to provide a DNA sample for a positive ID.
I don't even want to say was, but you know what I mean. He is in the prime of his life.
With flames exploding through the warehouse over the weekend, there remains no official cause for the deadliest fire in Oakland's history. But those who lived here and survived believe the fire was electrical.
A lot of people are hurting right now, and the only thing I can really think of is the people that are lost, their loved ones.
With a maze of cluttered wood furniture inside and a makeshift pallet staircase, renters at the warehouse known as the Ghost Ship say the property had 2 access points, a main door and an emergency exit. Witnesses say the fire started on the first floor. Nearly 100 people were upstairs, where a DJ played music and most of the bodies were recovered.
I woke up and my room was filled with smoke, like a fog of smoke. And I looked over and I could see an orange glow coming through the window.
Never permitted for residential living or parties, public records showed neighbors complained of blight. A city inspector arriving at the property last month to look into illegal housing, but unable to go inside.
Our district attorney, Nancy O'Malley, did activate a criminal investigation. That team is on the site.
That deadly warehouse fire behind me here at 31st and International Boulevard has many people calling for closer scrutiny of Oakland's warehouses. There are said to be at least 200 throughout the city. As ABC 7 News reporter Carolyn Tyler found, that has some artists worried about a crackdown.
Oakland artists are already grappling with being priced out. For example, these market-rate condos are being built right in the middle of West Oakland's arts community. Now some, like photographer Steros, have another fear following the warehouse fire.
I'm scared. I'm scared because they're
could be a crackdown.
He thinks many places artists can afford could be subject to code violations. His own building seems in good shape. Once a warehouse for boat manufacturers, there are 26 live-work units. Nearby, Chuck DeGuida runs the Jingletown Art Studios, a workspace for artists. He believes most enclaves like his are following safety rules.
All of the space owners, landlords, property managers that I know all do a really good job.
Cynthia Elliott tells us that's the case at the Ford Street Studios where she lives. This sprawling complex used to be a foundry, but is now live-work lofts for dozens of artists. Elliott is wondering if there'll be a backlash following the warehouse fire.
That there's going to be some knee-jerk reactions of we need to close all of these down.
But this weekend, Mayor Libby Schaaf reiterated her support. Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf plans to unveil a plan tomorrow to try to help keep artists here in Oakland.
I have been passionate about preserving and lifting up the incredible creative community.
In Oakland, Carolyn Tyler, ABC 7 News.
Nights before booking a hotel. I totally get that. We want to make sure that we get a great hotel for the best price. But why only 7 when there are so many more out there? Next time, before you book, check on Trivago. Trivago compares live prices from more than 150 different websites to make sure that you find the best price for your ideal hotel. Hotel Trivago.
To that huge fire that wiped out a large East Bay apartment building under construction.
Yes, Sky 7 captured the incredible scene shortly after the flames started at about 5:30 this morning.
Now here's a side-by-side comparison of what's left. Tonight we've learned this apartment complex is a controversial building for some.
ABC 7 News reporter Katie Udis has uncovered legal troubles that the owner is facing. She is live with the story. Katie.
Dan, these are details you'll hear only on 7. Within the last half hour, I received a copy of this lawsuit against the property owner. Now, previous tenants who lived in the original building on the property allege that he began construction while they still lived in the home. They say he dug up power lines and gas lines. They even say he altered the foundation, making the building unsafe. Their attorney calls this fire highly suspicious, considering the ongoing litigation.
A fire so large it could be felt on the other side of a building.
I seen the flames like over. They came over. I could feel the heat right here. It was very intense right here.
April Hudson lives in a unit next to the apartment complex being built on Oakland's Lester Avenue.
They fought for years, and I'm trying not to stop this. I mean, my mother signed petitions and all that, trying to stop me from making this massive apartment building.
After 5 this morning, flames erupted from the complex.
We're about 6 months or so, maybe 4 from completion. Yeah, it's an apartment building, 40 units.
Surrounding neighbors evacuated. A security guard and his girlfriend were staying on the property.
The security guard stays here. Yeah, he has a place that he is able to easily go in and out of and make sure that everything's safe.
And the container, honey. I had cable TV and a makeshift shower.
The city of Oakland confirmed that no occupancy permit has been issued for the property. Some neighbors are staying at hotels tonight because their apartments were damaged during the firefight.
They're going to find barricades at certain points, but if you are a resident in the neighborhood, yes, you can come home.
The cause is under investigation. The department estimates the damage to be in the range of $2 million. In Oakland, Katie Udis, ABC 7 News. Snacking has never been this exciting. To get your own free sampler box, just go to Graze.com, enter the code GRAZE20, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
It was quiet. It was heartbreaking. To get through what we were able to accomplish in 12 hours was a phenomenal feat.
You can see it on her face, in her voice. The battalion chief
And the most seasoned firefighters with her out there can hardly believe what they were finding in Oakland this morning. In the last few minutes, an update on the number of lives lost.
And it is staggering. We now know 24 people are confirmed dead, up from 10 last night. Officials say that number is likely to rise.
Firefighters say they have searched through only 1/5 of that warehouse. They plan to be there for at least a few more days to complete their search. Investigators are working to identify right now those recovered bodies. Good morning to you. I'm Reggie Akey.
And I'm Carolyn Tyler. It has been a grim, round-the-clock task of crews trying to recover those bodies. The fire department's battalion chief described it as a quiet, respectful search. This is all happening near 31st Avenue and International Boulevard in Oakland. It's very close to the Fruitvale BART station. ABC 7 News reporter Amy Hollyfield joins us live now from the scene. Good morning, Amy.
Hi, Carolyn. Yeah, the sheriff's office announced 24 people have been found dead. We knew the number was going to go up, but you could feel just everyone's slump in sadness when they heard it officially confirmed. 24 dead, more expected. We're told the first responders are exhausted, they are very emotional, and they still have a long ways to go.
At this point, we have approximately 80% left to search. So within 12 hours of our operational briefing, we made it through 1/5 of the building. This will be a long and arduous process, but we want to make sure that we're respecting the victims, their families, and our firefighters' safety to work slowly and carefully through the building.
The sheriff's office says they are taking a somber approach to the effort. They say it is very quiet in there, and it's heartbreaking. They are taking stuff out bucket by bucket. They're sorting it in a vacant lot. Then they're taking it to an off-site location. They found 3 victims on the east side of the building. Then they had to move these huge rafters that had fallen, and they were in the middle of the building, so it would be safe for the firefighters. Once they got those out of the way, they found 4 victims together. Then 10 feet away, 6 more. So that's a glimpse into the grim work they are doing in there. The coroner's office has to identify these victims and has only made official notification to 3 families. That's how slowly the process is going. One goal that's important to them is being respectful to the victims' memories, and that's why you see these tarps up blocking their recovery effort. They're protecting the dignity of the victims. They are working 12-hour shifts around the clock. They worked all night long. They tell us they will be giving us another update at 11 o'clock this morning. Reporting live in Oakland, Amy Hollyfield, ABC 7 News.
Amy, thank you so much. And you just heard Amy say that only a few of the families have been officially notified that they lost someone in this fire. A lot of these other families are still waiting for official word and hoping that theirs was the person who somehow got out and just hasn't reported back yet. ABC 7 News reporter Katie Marzullo is live for us at the Sheriff's Substation on East 12th Street in Oakland. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning, Reggie. We've seen just a handful of family members arrive here this morning, and the looks on their faces really speak to the horror of what they're going through. This substation here is a location not only where families can come to get more information, but also where they might be notified as the next of kin. And as we've learned in this morning's news conference, those notifications are coming quite slowly.
We've located 24 deceased victims of this fire. We've only been able to do 3 official notifications to families. So this is going very slow for us because we have to go back to our coroner's bureau and try to identify these people.
Families did gather here last night. As many as 50 were still here after 11 p.m. There are counselors here to help them, and this morning we've seen those counselors return. There are several of them inside, members of the Red Cross as well. Oakland, really the city of doing everything it can for victims' families, providing in some cases hotel rooms and definitely food and support. These doors are open. They've been open all night. And, you know, I've talked extensively with people who are inside, the sheriff's deputies and the counselors alike. A lot of very caring people in there who are putting in long hours to help in any way they can. Live in Oakland, Katie Marzullo, ABC 7 News.
The point of origin for the warehouse fire.
Our Amy Hollyfield is live with that part of the story. Good morning, Amy.
Yeah, they're saying it was right underneath where the dance floor was during this party that on Friday night here at this warehouse. They say that they're studying an area where there is some twisted steel and they can see where the fire spread from there. So that is the indication to them that they have found the right location of the point of where this fire started. They say it was in the back of the building. They brought in ATF agents to also help with the investigation. We asked about that twisted steel, and they said that comes from an extremely hot fire. We just got briefed moments ago. Let me let you listen in to what the chief told us.
We can see fire spread. ATF and our local investigators feel very strongly that they have identified the section of the building that is the area of origin.
They also updated the death toll during this press conference. They told us that that comes from an extremely hot fire. We just got briefed moments ago. Let me let you listen in to what the chief told us.
We can see fire spread. ATF and our local investigators feel very strongly that they have identified the section of the building that is the area of origin.
They also updated the death toll during this press conference. They told us that they have now found 36 victims. They do expect to release some names of victims later this afternoon, but they want to give family members time to reach out to other relatives and let them know before they release it to reporters. So that is one update we do think is coming later today. We also expect to see them return to that building once they get it safe, but that's not going to be until this afternoon. So they say they might not have any more updates for us until they can get back inside, which they think is going to be around noon. It could be as late as 2 o'clock this afternoon. Live in Oakland, Amy Hawley.
It was a hellhole. It was a death trap. I didn't know it was illegal. They don't tell you that when you first move in. They sell you this big line about it's going to be this artist collective.
One woman's story about what it was like to live inside of an illegally converted warehouse in Oakland where at least 36 people lost their lives in that fast-moving fire. The youngest victim so far, just 17 years old. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Reggie Akey.
I'm Natasha Zubas. It is an agonizing wait now for the families. The death toll is expected to grow. We have full team coverage on this, and we begin with ABC 7 News reporter Amy Hollyfield, who is live at that scene. Amy?
Natasha, they still aren't inside searching for victims. They say it just isn't safe. I just talked to a spokesperson who says they have crews inside right now trying to shore up the building, and they're hoping to get search crews back in there very soon. The morning started off with the news that they couldn't search overnight, and more bad news about fatalities.
Since our last update, we have located and recovered 36 victims. Of the 36, 11 have been positively identified.
Officials went on to say they still expect more victims will be found. As people continue to grieve at the site of Friday night's deadly fire in Oakland, for some, that grief is turning to anger.
It was a hellhole. It was a death trap.
Shelley Mack lived inside Ghost Ship Warehouse for 5 months. She decided to speak out today and describe what it was like inside because she is angry this happened and says it could have been prevented.
But shortly after I moved in, the transformer blew, and we had no electricity. And I was asking, well, how come we're not calling PG&E? Well, that's when I found out it was an illegal hookup to PG&E.
She says she moved in because it was cheap, $700 a month. But she called police several times when she realized what was going on. She says the conditions inside were dangerous.
They blocked the back stairway because they always run the electrical cords down the back stairway, through them, over them. So when there's an event, they block the back stairway because they don't want people walking down the stairway tripping over all the illegal cords.
A criminal investigation has been launched to look into allegations like these. But the search for evidence and victims had to be put on hold overnight because the building was deemed unsafe. The front of it is leaning.
For us as firefighters working under a wobbly, potentially collapsing exterior wall is extremely dangerous.
They do hope that they're going to beat the rain. There is a new urgency.
She got a little story, man. I had to ask you. I was trying to be rude, but I was like, man, what happened here, man? This looks like it hurt or something. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's actually a very tragic event that's been happening here over the past week. Last Friday,
I lived in an artist collective in Oakland, and there was a fire. There was a lot of people that didn't make it out. I was the first one to see the fire.
What do you mean? You were there in Oakland, where the big fire was, the warehouse fire?
Yeah, that was my house. I lived there.
That was your house?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's actually a very tragic event that's been happening here over the past week. Last Friday, I lived in an artist collective in Oakland, and there was a fire. There's a lot of people that didn't make it out. I was the first one to see the fire.
What do you mean? You were there in Oakland, where that big fire was, the warehouse fire?
Yeah, that was my house. I lived there.
That was your house?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was an event. It was rather tame and small, and gathered, and people were having conversation, and it was experimental synthesizer music and live visual audio, visuals, live visuals, and I was just getting ready to paint that night. I work in film production myself, so I had to be up for work at 7 in the morning.
Oh wow.
Or get to be picked up at 7 in the morning.
Wow.
So I was just kind of taking it easy, and without really going through play-by-play of everything. At a certain point, I was still inside, and a fire extinguisher wasn't working. It was all happening really quick, and I ran back into the fire, and I was like, "Fuck, my camera, my computer, shit! I'm gonna go." This is the last attempt. And I was like,
"Oh my god!"
In my brain, I was like, "Oh my god!" And then I saw my friend Pete, who was my neighbor.
Neighbor, on another
neighbor,
building, or neighbor in the same building?
Neighbor within the space.
Oh,
we
okay.
had plywood, this thick, as walls with some insulation.
So this was an art collective where other people lived.
There was 20 of us that lived there and operated every day. Some of us weren't there quite all the time. Some more than others.
Yeah.
But my friend Pete, he's a bigger guy. He was coming down from the loft in his space, and he had broken his ankle. Was calling out to me, Bob, help me. I broke my ankle. You need to pull me out.
Oh
and so
my
I just
dude.
I grabbed his wrists, and I was doing my best to pull him out. And I guess in the time that I ran back into the fire, saw him, and then got back after pulling him, I noticed there was this bike that had fallen and blocked my path. My path was not blocked on the way in there.
That's cool.
So it's you're of course movie scenario of go into the fire, something falls, your way back out isn't the same, and then you have your homie who's a bigger dude, and you can't just throw him on your shoulder.
Oh my.
Or lift him up and throw him over the barricade, then worry about yourself. I had to move.
You actually felt the heat, right? I would imagine. I mean, it looks like you got actual burns. One on your hand. One on your This is crazy, man. I appreciate you. Oh, wow. What is this?
This
is from the burn.
This is from the heat, the intensity of the heat.
Oh my goodness. And so, your natural human instinct, then, at some point,
my body just completely
froze up.
It didn't freeze up. It just released, and I had to let go of his hand. I started screaming his name, and I had to get all this stuff out of my way, and